Are you looking to get on the road to your dream career? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Mentor Select Podcast with your host, Derek Phillips. Always stay up to date on social media at Mentor Select and online at mentorselect.com. Here's your host of the Mentor Select Podcast, Derek Phillips.
Welcome to episode 70 of the Mentor Select Podcast. I'm so grateful that you joined us on the day before Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you are looking forward to reuniting with your families and having dinner and just eating good, relaxing, football, all that good stuff that comes with Thanksgiving. My father-in-law actually will be in town, so I'm really excited about that. He gets to meet his granddaughter, little Legacy. So it's going to be a full family affair. My wife's cooking a big dinner. Sister, nieces, and nephew are coming over. So it's going to be exciting times in the Phillips household. I would be super thankful if you like, subscribe, and share the Mentor Select podcast. Just really helps to grow the Mentor Select community and give the podcast access to people who really need virtual mentorship. Maybe they don't have mentors readily available in person. That's where the Mentor Select podcast comes into play because it provides that high quality virtual mentorship. That's what it's all about. Also, be sure to support my book, Poverty Powerball, How to Turn Adversity into Your Winning Ticket, where I provide the blueprint on how to just be more resilient and overcome any adversity that you're facing in life and just see the value in hardships, just the life lessons you learn as a result, and just makes you stronger. And as a result, it allows you to help other people who are going through similar circumstances. Well, we have an exciting podcast for you today. I'll be interviewing financial planner Mike Romig. He's been a salesman and financial planner for over 40 years. He's really passionate about helping people and especially helping people prepare for retirement. As you all know, in America, many of us are not prepared for retirement. We're not saving enough. We're spending more than we make. A lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And Mike Romig is all about helping people get out of that situation and become more financially secure so they can live a fulfilling life without having the stress of being in debt and just not knowing where they're going to get money from. So let's get to this interview with my main man, Mike. So today we have Mike Romig on the Mentor Select podcast. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Derek. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Honor to have you. I know you're a busy man, so we really appreciate you taking time out to mentor the listeners. So, Mike, on the Mentor Select podcast, we like to get to know our guest mentors better. Do you mind sharing something with us that most people don't know about you?
Probably that I am an enormous fan of Pink Floyd. Any opportunity I have to hear their music, to listen to their music, particularly in a live venue, I'm like all over that.
So how long have you been a fan?
You know, Derek, a really long time, back to the 70s.
Wow. Cool. That lifelong fan.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
You weren't born in the 70s, right?
Right. Yeah, I made it in the early 80s. So it's been a while. But yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing. When was the last time you saw him in person?
Well, I saw there are two Pink Floyd tribute bands that come to Dallas each year.
Okay.
And one was here in June and one was here in September. And I saw both of them, and they were both two of my favorite nights of the year.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, my wife, she's a big music lover, and she loves Beyonce, so she'll go anywhere to see Beyonce. So I guess
Sure.
the same way. Yeah, that's cool. Well, Mike, on the Mentor Select podcast, we encourage our listeners to follow their passions because we believe it will ultimately lead them to their dream career. Can you tell us how you're following your passions?
You know, I've been a salesman for 40 years. I love being a salesman. I love being able to bring value to people.
Mm-hmm.
I love being able to help people solve problems that they have in their lives, particularly, you know, simplistically, I'm a financial advisor, and to help people feel more secure, to help them progress towards the goals that they have, to help them keep money in perspective in their lives, and to help them out of jams when they get in one. I get an enormous value out of that.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, and it kind of all falls under that umbrella. You're a problem solver. So
Yeah, I am. I like solving problems, and I like getting paid to solve problems.
yeah, you should get paid well to solve your problems, certainly, to fix those pain points, and certainly
Yeah.
financial issues typically are a lot of people's pain points. So it's great to be able to help solve those. Just to backtrack, how did you get started in sales and financial advisement?
My education, I was an accountant by education, and that's where I started my career. And long story short, I needed a job, and I got recruited into the life insurance industry.
Okay.
And that's really where I started my career, was selling life insurance. And as I mentioned a little while ago, I like being a salesman. I like helping people solve problems. And early in my life insurance career, I started selling retirement plans. And over the course of, the 40-odd years I've been doing this, I've just moved more and more and more to selling retirement plans to companies and working with company leadership and working with the employees of the companies whose plans we advise, just, helping them get to where they hope to get to.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely dig deeper into that. But in terms of, like, say, your formal training as being an accountant, were you always just fascinated by numbers and good with math and
Yeah, I
attracted to
think
that field?
so. I think so. Numbers have always come really easy to me.
Now, when helping people with their retirement plans and just really building that nest egg, what are your views on just the current state of Americans and their retirement planning?
Oh, wow.
I know
Let
you
me
have some
see if I
views
can
on
keep this down to,
that.
yeah, I have some definite views on that. I think that, I think the mass of Americans are kind of overwhelmed by money. I mean, we live in a do-it-yourself world today. Once upon a time, a lot of people had pension plans. Those are pretty much non-existent anymore. Pretty much so much falls on employees to figure out for themselves, and they're mostly not trained very well in that. And I find people need a lot of help, and people have, there are a lot of demands, particularly earlier in our 20s and 30s and 40s, as we're creating families, and early in our career, and we're trying to buy a house. We want to get our kids educated. All the time, we know we need to save money for emergencies. We know we need to save money for retirement, and then along the way, it's not uncommon that people will have older parents that may need some financial help. And we pretty much all want to have the things that our friends and neighbors have. I mean, we want to have cool electronics, and we want to have cool cars, and we want our kids to have the opportunities to be on certain athletic teams or dancing schools. So my point is that there are a lot of demands on most people's paychecks, and
Right.
between the competing priorities, plus the social pressure to keep up with the Joneses, to kind of
Right.
use a cliche, people find themselves often overwhelmed. And we live in an economy that is really based on each of us as individuals spending every penny we can earn or borrow or whatever. I mean, our economy is built on consumers spending money, and far too many people, in my opinion, are living paycheck to paycheck, and too much of their pay each month goes to Visa or MasterCard, and
Right.
they don't have money when invariably our refrigerator is going to go out, or one of our children are going to need braces or break a leg, or we hit a bad patch on the road, and all of a sudden we have to replace a set of tires. And most folks aren't even equipped with the cash to handle those kinds of emergencies. So they have to borrow the money, and, the cycle just seems to perpetuate itself.
Yeah, as far as preparing for that rainy day, it's coming.
Yeah, yeah,
No matter
yeah.
what.
Well, that's, those of us who've been around any length of time know. I mean, there's no such thing as going through life without the unexpected showing up.
Right.
It just has a way of doing that.
Exactly. And I certainly can relate to a lot of those pitfalls as far as not really having in my earlier years, young adult, not having a firm understanding of just financial literacy and credit card debt, student loan debt.
Sure.
It's so easy to get caught up in those pitfalls. Certainly, just like says, our society kind of perpetuates it and makes it seem like it's the right thing. It's okay. It's the American way of life.
Right. I mean, most of us were not taught to be savers. Most of us have been taught to be consumers. Mm-hmm. And I know it took me a long time to learn to be a saver. Mm-hmm. And I had to endure a lot of pain along the way in order to get there.
So do you think, I guess, is it for, let's say, the young listeners out there that's getting ready to graduate high school, what are some practical tips that you would have for them in terms of trying to avoid some of the pitfalls you and I both have encountered, financial standpoint?
I would say the number one recommendation I would make to anybody is find a way to save some amount, however small they might think it is, to save some amount out of every paycheck. Okay. And the easiest way to do that is to make it automatic. I mean, credit unions, for the most part, will open an account for you with $5 in it. Wow. The banks won't do that, but the credit unions will. You can go to a credit union and set up an account with $5 and then draft, use a bank draft and have money drafted from your bank account into that savings account. And look, if it's only $5 a month, however little you might think it is, I promise you it will make a difference.
Okay. $5 is better than zero.
Well, the amazing thing about saving over time is like how money grows.
Like compound interest.
Compound interest and just time and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me often because, the stocks and bonds and different investment vehicles are an integral part of my business. And there tends to be a lot of conversation about, where should I invest my money, et cetera. And, how much you invest, how often you invest is way more important than where you invest. I mean, not that where you invest isn't important, but you can't invest your way out of a lack of savings.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think kind of what comes as a surprise to me. So for you, having a background in accounting and just numbers always coming easy for you, you also mentioned that you've experienced a lot of those pitfalls yourself and learned how to become a saver through pain. Can you elaborate more on that?
Exactly.
Because I'm sure a lot of people may assume, oh yeah, Mike, he's always had it figured out. He's the
right. Listen,
investment guy.
I ascribe to a couple of false beliefs. One of the false beliefs that I had was that I could earn my way into wealth. You can't. I mean, the more money I made, the more I spent. Plain and simple. And without having a savings habit, I just earned more money and not that I've am a super earner, but I've been blessed to make a nice living most of my career, and but I wasn't keeping any of it, and I also fell into the easy credit. I mean, Visa and MasterCard and other folks out there are anxious to lend us money. What they don't tell us is, hey, you need to pay that money back. And, those small monthly payments, you start adding one small monthly payment on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. And all of a sudden you got a big monthly payment. going back to the point we were speaking about a few minutes ago about unexpected things happen. Well, you know what? Things happen in our life. I've lost jobs through faults of my own, but I've also lost jobs through no faults of my own. And one day you got a good job, and the next day you don't, and it's because the company you were working for couldn't get the financing they needed to continue a project. So what they did was they cut staff by 30%, and all of a sudden I was on the street without a job. And you know what? Those monthly payments, those folks, they don't really care if you got a job or not. They still
Right.
expect their money. And so, that can be unpleasant.
Yeah. I think something you said is so important. I think is often overlooked, but we kind of see with celebrities or high earners is you can't earn your way into wealth. And,
That's right. You can't.
I think that's something that people take for granted and something I've experienced. I've been blessed to make a lot of money throughout my career, but as far as understanding how to save that, because it's easy. The more you make, the more you spend. That's so.
Yeah.
It's kind of just intuitive. Or I can afford it now. Before you know it, you're back living paycheck to paycheck. So that's a really important lesson that I've had to learn the hard way as well. Because we hear stories about people that may have made $30,000 a year, but they end up retiring a millionaire because they had that saving habit.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had very few clients in my career that were really, really savers. But the ones that were really, really savers, that started saving from the time they first started earning money and never stopped, when they got into, even before they got into retirement, when they got into their 40s and 50s, and now they're in their 60s, but nonetheless, relative to their income, they had absurd amounts of money saved. And the people who made more money had more money saved than the people who had less money. But even the people who were on the lower end of the pay scale had amazing amounts of money relative to their income. And I can tell you from living life from paycheck to paycheck and living life with money in the bank, the quality of life is dramatically different.
Oh, yeah. A lot less stressful. You're not worried.
A lot less stressful.
Yes, indeed. Less stressful, more freedom, long list of benefits of being a saver and just planning your financial future. At this point, I kind of want to pivot to just the actual career of being a financial advisor, planner, accountant. For those who are considering that career field, what are some skill sets they need? What are some things they should consider before entering into a career in financial planning or accounting?
The great thing about the industry is there are so many different roles available that you can make a pretty decent to a very, very nice living. So very nice livings are made by people who can bring business in the door. They don't have to be the smartest. They don't have to be the hardest working. What they have to be is able to bring business in the door. And that's a particular skill set. There are other people who are really good on the technical side, and there as well, they can make a nice living, because after the business gets brought in the door, somebody's got to figure out how to actually create and implement the solutions for the client. I think it's a great industry. I think that it's a particularly great industry if you really enjoy helping people. It's a particularly great industry if you intellectually like money, if the whole finance thing is interesting to you. And I had a little bit of the best of both worlds, because I was an accountant before I was anything else. But at the end of the day, what I really like is I like bringing business in the door. I like being a salesman. Okay. I like being able to meet people, learn about them, learn about what their goals and objectives are, what their challenges are, and be able to come up with a way to help them, and then get paid to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think you gave a good overview of what makes a good salesman. You learn about them, what their pain points are, and how you can craft a solution to help.
I think what makes a really great salesman, I mean, there are certainly more than one thing, but I think great salesmen for the most part, really care about helping people.
That is vital. Absolutely. So being that the podcast is Mentor Select and you're offering virtual mentorship right now, can you tell us what role have mentors played in your personal and professional life?
You know, I've been very fortunate there. I had when I started my career selling life insurance, the man who led the organization I was in was just a brilliant guy. I mean, he was he could see opportunities in the marketplace that most people couldn't see. He taught me how to identify those. That was really great. It was he who really turned me on to the idea of selling retirement plans to companies to help their employees. I remember when I was interviewing with him, and I had been an accountant up to that point in time. I had been an accountant for almost 10 years. And when I was interviewing with him, he was like, listen, this role is, in many ways, you're going to be a consultant. In many ways, you're going to be a technician. He said, but don't ever forget that first and foremost, you're a salesman. And I've never forgotten that, because all businesses, first and foremost, have to have revenue coming in the door. And
right.
And that's the part I really like. I have another mentor who coaches entrepreneurs. I've learned so much from him. I mean, his entrepreneurial coaching is really how to be effective, how to use your time wisely, how to create process and structure. And I mean, he's been a great mentor. I've had other mentors that, you know, have helped me really spiritually and emotionally. And I mean, one of the things I've always been pretty good about is finding people. If I identify something in my life that I'm not happy about, if I've been able to see something that I really want to affect change about, where can I go? Who can I talk to that's been down this road that can share their experience and strength and hope with me to help me improve a situation, solve a problem, like that.
Yeah, I like that approach a lot. And that's kind of what mentorship is all about, just learning from other people's experience and just people who've already been down that road, just reaching back and helping those that's maybe facing those same obstacles that the mentor has already overcome. But also it's really good that you're able to kind of self-reflect, see, okay, this is something I don't like about myself, and not be in denial about it, but say, hey, I need to seek some type of help. And that's something I know a lot of people struggle with.
You know, I've always believed in coaching. I mean, I have friends, you know, I have a good friend who's a very successful guy. I mean, I just know, you know, some guys believe in coaching, some guys don't. I've been in one or another coaching program for a long time. It's helped me a lot. I'm just a great believer in that.
Yeah, I am as well. So primarily in your role now, you more so work with organizations with helping them with their pitching plans?
Primarily, yeah. I work with them to design and implement retirement plans that can really impact their employees, that can really impact the capability of their employees to be on a path that's going to get them to be able to retire at the time they want, on the terms they want, with enough money that they're probably not going to outlive, and so that they can have some security. And you know, and in today's world, that means helping them with the competing priorities I alluded to earlier. You know, the reality is people get in too much credit card debt and don't know how to get out of it, or you know, people have elderly parents and don't know how to deal with that, or people want to buy a house and don't really know how to do that. And I'm convinced that we, and when I say we, I mean myself and my other peers who do what I do, if we don't help these folks, then I don't know who is.
Yeah, certainly won't be the credit card companies.
It's not going to be the credit card companies. The government's not going to be able to do it. You know, I don't know who's going to do it.
That's awesome. And that kind of leads into my next question. Like, what do you find most rewarding about your career?
I'll tell you a story.
All right. We like stories.
A couple of years ago, a client that that I've had for today almost the entire 40 years I've been doing this.
Wow.
Her husband had passed away in 2003, and maybe 2013 or 2014, her eldest daughter had passed away. And they had a memorial service for her, the daughter. And so I went to it. And I've been with these people, like I said, a really long time, and we've done a lot of work together. And at the risk of being immodest, I've done a lot for them. And quite candidly, it's been really good business for me at the same time. Anyway, when I was leaving that function, I went to tell this woman goodbye, and she gave me a kiss, and she said, "I love you." And I'll tell you, Derek, that's why I do that. I mean, it's like I said, I made good money out of this relationship, and at the same time done good work for them. But knowing I've been able to make a difference for people,
Yeah,
that's an enormous reward.
absolutely. And then in your role with advising them financially, it sounds like she was able to more so grieve and not worry about, okay, how are we going to pay for this funeral, or we're going to be able to pay the bills. So that preparation and having that professional financial advice, yeah, that's priceless.
Right.
I've certainly had family members where they left their loved ones with nothing but bills, and it was stressful. They couldn't grieve. Yeah.
Sure.
Very
life can be hard enough when you have money. When you don't have money, it gets exponentially more difficult.
Right. I totally agree.
And I just want to editorialize for a minute here, if I can. There's lots of things written in commercials and advertisements and so on. People talk about financial freedom, and I've been to like multi-level marketing seminars where they talk about, you could be free enough to, be on a sail, just go sail around the Caribbean for
right. Easy breezy.
Right. And, when we talk about financial freedom, when I talk about financial freedom with my clients, I'm not talking about being Powerball rich. Being financially free to me means having enough money to have a home that I can afford. Having enough money that if my daughter comes in and tells me she needs braces or my refrigerator dies, the whole family finances are not sent into chaos.
Right.
Financial freedom to me means being on track so when I decide I don't want to work anymore, I have enough money to live without being in desperation. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's what financial freedom is.
Yeah.
Having the protections that if my husband or my spouse or my wife or, something adverse happens that, the circumstance in and of itself is going to be traumatic enough.
Right.
Having money there, it doesn't make the pain less, but it doesn't make the pain worse either.
Right. Yeah, those are all good points. I'm glad you put it into context because, a lot of times just the advertising of different services and products and they kind of make it seem like, oh, yeah, you just follow these few easy steps and you'll be living the lifestyle of rich and famous on the beach somewhere. But
and I think it makes people feel like they're not doing well enough.
Right.
When the truth is, if you got a house, if you got a few bucks in the bank, if you're well off enough that when something unexpected happens, it doesn't send your family finances into chaos. If you're consistently saving for retirement, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're in good shape.
You're way, way, way in the minority.
Right. Yeah, that is an excellent point. And what's obvious about just entire interview you're talking about is, you really care about helping people. And that's what it boils down to. And that sure fuels your passion and excitement for this career field, just because how your expertise can help so many people get to that point.
Thanks.
So, Mike, you've given us a lot of great practical tips and just some good guidance on how to get to that point of financial security. As we get ready to close out this interview, what would be some parting words of advice you would want to leave the listeners with?
That it's all about making progress. We tend to be perfectionistic, and that's a trap, that's a dead end, and it's all about making progress. Small amounts consistently make huge differences.
I love that advice, and just kind of goes back to what you said. Even if you just saving $5 a paycheck over time, that will make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Certainly, it gives people hope where they feel like, oh, I don't have to just start with this big accomplishment. Start small. Start where you are. Baby steps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Love that advice. So, Mike, how can the listeners get in contact with you?
They can call me. My cell phone number is 214-938-7746. If I don't answer, please leave a voicemail. I will call you back. Or you can send me an email. My email address is mtt, like Mike the Tiger, 75007 @gmail.com.
Awesome. And for the listeners, even though Mike primarily works with organizations on their pension plans, he'll point you in the right direction. He just recently referred me to some accountants that I'm looking to try to get my finances in better order. So I appreciate that, Mike. And I'm sure you'll do the same for the listeners. Point them in the right direction if you can directly help them.
I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Mike, for coming on the Mentor Select podcast. We really appreciate it. This is such an important topic, finances. Definitely appreciate you giving us some guidance in that area.
My pleasure, Derek. I'm privileged to be here.
Wow, that was such a remarkable interview with Mike Romig. He gave us so much practical advice in terms of how to get our finances in order and just how to get started in terms of investing for retirement, saving for that rainy day. Because we all know the rainy day is coming, so it's best to be prepared for it so we don't have to borrow on credit cards and get into debt and it just spirals out of control quickly. So I highly recommend that you take Mike's advice. Just get started, whether it's just $5 a month is better than zero. So getting started is the key. Be sure to reach out to Mike. Let him know what resonated with you about the interview. And if you have any just questions about financial planning, anything along those lines, he'd be willing to help you out. And if he can't help you, then he'll point you in the right direction. I appreciate you tuning in, and make sure that you return next week for another remarkable interview with a guest mentor. And last but not least, don't forget to support my book, Poverty Powerball. It's available on Amazon. I really appreciate your support.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Mentor Select podcast, helping you identify and follow your passions. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit mentorselect.com and Mentor Select on social media. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review. We'll catch you next time.